on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his...
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Listener discretion is advised. The show contains graphic language and depictions of violence. It may not be suitable for all audiences.
We say fuck a lot.
You're listening to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
How's it going, Big D?
Oh, I'm just hanging out.
You had a good week?
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it has been a decent week.
Had a nice long break with my wife.
With your wife?
Yes.
Okay. We were just discussing the Netflix docuseries Night Stalker.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it yet.
I have not, and I plan on ingesting it very soon.
I watched it. I binged it like in an afternoon into an evening.
Yeah, I was at work, and you would text me like, oh my God.
There was a lot of information in that docuseries that I was not aware of as far as Richard Ramirez. I mean, I think everyone's probably heard his name. We're aware of his crimes, what he did to an extent. But this docuseries really dives in, covers a lot of information that just blew my mind. Like, how did I not know this stuff?
Yeah, and I think Netflix, honestly, yeah, sometimes the series, like maybe The Staircase, was 2 or 3 episodes too long. They could have condensed that down.
Oh, yeah, they could have.
And I mean, it was interesting, but you're just like, come on, bro. We don't have to, talk about this one thing, the fire poker, for an episode and a half. Chill out. But I think Netflix does a fairly good, in-depth job on various cases. Because every time I watch a series on a particular person, I always learn a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
With it through interviews and things of that nature.
If you're a true crime fan and you're listening to Mountain Murders, so you must be, I recommend checking it out if you have a Netflix account where you can steal someone's password.
Yeah, and some people online were carrying on saying it was too graphic. They're showing crime scene photos and some of the graphics, I guess, as well, with cutaway scenes or something with blood. Animated blood, supposedly. But from a little bit you told me, you can learn a lot more about Ramirez, especially his earlier life. Is that right?
Yeah, they dive back into his childhood, discuss some of the events in his life that could have possibly led him down this path. Although I'm always interested in the psychology behind these killers and what is their motivation and why are they like this? And I think so many people are interested in that. And though it does dive back into his early life and discusses his family situation and some various things like that, I don't feel like there's really any definitive moment or event that would catapult him to become the Night Stalker.
So there was no traumatic head injury event or super overbearing parents or anything like that?
It does seem like he had not a great childhood, and he was influenced by a cousin, I believe, that had gone to Vietnam and would show him these very graphic photos and talk about the kills and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. His cousin was a very heavy influence on him, I think, from everything I've listened to.
I kind of knew that information, but yeah, I'm not going to say he had a great life. He didn't have the worst life. I think there's plenty of us out there who've probably experienced the same kinds of dysfunction, and we aren't serial killers. So I don't know.
Right. So he didn't have this type of life when it's described to you. You're like, well, fuck.
Right. Yeah.
How could you come out of that without being a monster?
Right.
Right. Oh, interesting.
But I think it's worth a watch, and you will learn some things. I think you'll learn some things about Richard Ramirez that you possibly didn't know. So it's educational.
You know what? I'm going to watch it, and then me and you are going to drink some coffee, and we're going to talk about it.
Well, you're going to have a coffee to walk?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk amongst ourselves.
Richard Ramirez was neither a knight,
nor
though he was a stalker. So talk amongst yourselves.
He was a monster.
Yeah, he's one of the worst of the worst, in my opinion.
When I've listened to stuff or read stuff that's went into, great detail on his crimes there towards the end when it got real bad, which all of it's bad. It's just spending that much time in someone's home, taking control of multiple entire families, multiple people, wives, husbands in bed together, taking the wife out, and you can hear her being brutalized in another room, and you're tied up with dishes stacked on you, like some kind of alarm, and kids, creeping into the kids' room.
It reminds me of
oh my God,
a bit of like the Golden State Killer.
Wait, am I crossing those up?
No, well, I think they just both had similar characteristics.
Oh my God, I might have got that crossed up with the stacking dishes on the partner.
I think that might have been the Golden State Killer.
Oh, shit.
But I think Ramirez and the Golden State Killer share similar characteristics and certain behaviors, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry to the aficionados out there, like, oh, he's totally talking about the Golden State Killer.
I'm going to go ahead. Let me just apologize real quick as well. Like, I'm not feeling great. I don't know, for like the last month, my immune system is just non-existent. I had to go to urgent care this morning. Not feeling that great. So if I seem a bit low energy, I apologize. But I really want to bring you guys this interesting story. So are you ready to get into the podcast, Dylan?
Yes, let's do it.
And talk about today's case.
And I think everyone will bear with you, but the show must go on.
It must. Okay. Health be damned. Richard Daniel Starrett was born September 25th, 1959 in Atlanta, Georgia, to parents Richard and Jerry. Danny was a difficult baby who cried constantly and was taken to the doctor quite a bit with digestive issues. A crying baby 24/7, it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, my first child had a colic and like a reflux when his first 4 or 5 months. And I'm telling you what, it is hard to deal with when you're a new parent.
It's like raw nerves, huh?
You're not getting any sleep anyway. And I would never do it, but I totally understand people that do have mental breaks during a period like that and accidentally harm their baby or something like that, because the best thing you can do in those situations is just let them cry. If you feel like you're getting so flustered, then just put them in somewhere safe, let them cry, go outside, get some air.
Sometimes parents need to take a time out.
Call somebody, talk to them, do whatever you got to do.
Well, it sounds like Danny's infancy was quite difficult. Again, he had these digestive issues, and diarrhea can be deadly for an infant as they dehydrate quickly. And Danny's chronic diarrhea was so bad at one point, he had to be rushed to the hospital. Though his parents didn't have a lot of money at the time, nor did they have insurance, the doctor wanted to admit him to the hospital, but they just couldn't afford it. So the doctor recommended that he be fed orange juice and sugar water.
Oh.
One of those old-timey remedies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a doctor today is going to be like, here, give that baby some sugar water.
Well, and the orange juice is very acidic, so I'm not sure that's going to...
some Mountain Dew in that baby's bottle.
I'm not sure that that's going to be good on his little tummy.
Well, Danny's mother worked, and his father was a college student at Georgia Tech, so the young baby was left in the care of sitters. His mother entrusted him in the care of a 12-year-old girl named Andrea Herder. Now, can you imagine leaving your brand new baby with a 12-year-old all day?
Well,
while you're at work?
It'd have to be a super. I would be hard pressed to do it, even with the most mature, best acting 12-year-old ever. Let alone a child with already having issues health wise.
I don't know. I wonder if it's a reflection of the times when, maybe back in the 60s, it was not a big deal to be like, oh, here, leave this baby with a 12-year-old.
Well, this 12-year-old can change an engine out in the car, in the driveway and shit. It's very well accomplished 12-year-old.
That just seems like a really big responsibility for a 12-year-old. I'm not even sure I would let our 15 or 14-year-olds care for a baby for 30 minutes.
Yeah, but these kids nowadays, they can't care for a virtual pet. They'll let it die.
That's true. After being left with a young babysitter, Danny's behavior seemed to change. Neighbors complained that the baby cried all day while his mother was at work. He developed a severe diaper rash because he wasn't being changed properly. His mother also suspected there might have been some physical and sexual abuse happening when Andrea was babysitting. Her brother Fred would often assist her in watching this child, but no charges were ever filed against the babysitter or her brother.
Well, yeah, that doesn't sound like a good situation at all.
Danny was an Army child who moved around a lot with his family throughout the United States and even in Central America. They lived there for a time. They lived in Georgia, West Virginia, New Jersey, and a few other places while he was young. When Danny was only a toddler, about 2 or 3, he suffered his first head injury. His father was driving down the road in his Ford Fairlane when the child tumbled headfirst out of the moving car.
Oh, my God.
He just opened the door and fell right out. And I imagine, and I couldn't find any notations about this, but he likely wasn't in a car seat because that was just not a thing people did back then.
No. I mean, even you talk about, like, standing on your grandmother's lap, like, up on the dash, looking around in the car.
I remember standing up in the front seat of the car, and then she would hit her brakes, and she would whack me across the chest with her hand and her arm.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, sit down and put your seatbelt on.
Yeah.
The 80s.
Well, I think we all, when we grew up during that time and before, you got the old arm to the chest if they stopped quickly.
We didn't wear seatbelts, and we turned out all right.
I ain't need no seatbelt. You see my mom's forearms?
Yeah.
By God.
That's why I have a broken sternum. So when the child tumbled headfirst out of this moving car, his father didn't take him to the hospital. Instead, Danny's dad took him home, put him in bed.
Oh, wow, let's go to sleep. Probably got a concussion.
I know, right? That's probably the worst thing that he could do. He suffered a second head injury when he was about 5 years old, falling headfirst off a 9-foot slide down onto the asphalt below.
Ooh.
And from what it sounds like, he was like hanging like off the side of the slide, like just trying to be a little daredevil.
Oh, no.
Whacked his head.
You know, in the parents' defense, we have a lot more information about these types of things nowadays. And, you know, hey, even when I was a kid, if nothing's broken or you're not bleeding, walk it off.
Put some dirt on it.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yep.
But, yeah, I mean, we know a lot more about these things, like concussions, head injuries.
We do. And I'm not knocking his parents.
But
I mean, it's just a different time, a different
really
era,
is.
and we've come a long way, baby.
It's true.
He was knocked unconscious and taken to the hospital. A doctor said there wasn't any major damage. Less than a year after the slide accident, Danny started falling down a lot. He claimed to get dizzy, and then his legs would give out from under him, causing him to fall down. After a series of tumbles, he was taken to a doctor who determined that his left foot was not growing at the same rate as his right foot. This was also causing Danny to favor using one side of his body because one of his legs was also slightly shorter than the other.
Oh, yeah. I've known people with that type of thing have to wear the special shoes, you know, that have the adjustments on them. But that can cause a lot of different health issues.
Definitely.
Like your pelvis and
just being out of alignment.
your back and all that stuff. Yeah.
One doctor thought Danny might have a brain tumor, but he was diagnosed with Babinski reflex instead. It was around the age of 7 that his mother noticed more peculiar changes in Danny's behavior. The boy was always reading, withdrawing from other activities, and spending more time alone in his bedroom. His mother was surprised when in first grade, Danny's teacher told her that he couldn't read well enough to be promoted to second grade because he was always reading. So his mother just couldn't understand, like, how can he not read well? That's all the kid does.
Yeah. I always feel the same way.
Danny had also developed a stutter around the age of 3, so the teacher suggested that Danny see a psychologist. The psychologist thought Danny was a bright boy with a high IQ, but that he suffered from dyslexia. The doctor suggested Danny wear an eye patch to correct the problem. Danny also was incredibly hyperactive. His teacher said he couldn't sit still at all, which was something his mother also noted about her son. Danny had trouble sleeping. He annoyed his siblings constantly to the point of harassment, begging them, like, please play with me. Like, he just could never get enough attention, it seemed like.
Really?
And just so hyper. As your mom would say, Dylan, get somewhere and get still.
Get somewhere and get still.
He had a hard time settling down, self-soothing, and could never get it together. At school, again, teachers told the Starretts they had a smart son, but his hyperactivity prevented him from focusing. Some suggesting that perhaps Danny was so intelligent, he was bored with the material. He was also exhibiting extreme obsessive-compulsive behaviors. At home, his room was immaculate. He focused on organization and cleaning to the point that it was strange for a child.
Oh, so that could be a sign of like some OCD issues, right?
Yeah. If something was out of order at all, he would have a meltdown.
You know, I didn't realize that OCD can be to the degree to actually almost be like a psychosis. Because I was watching that, was it Crazy Not Insane?
Yes.
that documentary, and you had a lot of people schizophrenics and things of that nature. But then there was this one guy who was like it was OCD was his main diagnosis, but it was to the degree that like if someone come and changed his environment or moved something around or wouldn't let him do exactly what he needed to do, be it, touch the light 5 times or whatever, he would flip the fuck out and like hurt people. And so that's why but I didn't realize it could be to that degree.
Yeah, it can be like very crippling for folks.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Well, Danny needed everything to be neat and orderly. He showered up to 5 times a day, needing to be as neat and tidy as possible. This is very unusual for a child. You can't typically get a child to take a bath once a day without a fight.
He's sitting around reading all the time. Everything's, looks like he's in the best soldier ever in the military. Everything's neat.
He's got little hospital corners on his twin bed.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is not your typical kid.
No. Even at 7, Danny began keeping journals. He would draw a lot, and one of his favorite things to draw was girls.
Oh, Danny.
He would draw girls being trapped in devices.
Oh.
In a series of drawings, Danny would detail girls being trapped in devices or machines and processed into meat.
Well, I'm sorry. That's not where I thought Danny was going with this.
Oh, yeah?
That's quite different. I thought he was dreaming like the big boob anime girls or something.
He would later recognize the sadistic nature of these sketches, but he didn't feel he was a sadist, as he had no desire whatsoever to hurt animals. So that made him not a sadist in his brain.
Well, yeah, I don't think it works like that. You don't have to have every single little, characteristic of something to be that way. But I think there is something to be said for a child drawing women getting dragged into various mechanical devices and then shredded up.
And they come out as a roll of paper, and Dylan's like, look, this is what I do at work all the time.
This is how we make food packaging.
Yeah.
Bring us another truckload of women.
Danny also seemed to be more interested in girls and sex than most boys his age. As a child, Danny was also a daredevil, as I mentioned before, like hanging upside down off the slide, tumbling out of the car door. Not only did he climb trees, but he wanted to climb the highest up in the tree. He had a passion for danger. He climbed to the top of the tree and then would do like a death-defying leap from the top.
Oh, my gosh.
When everyone's telling him, like, you're going to break an arm or a leg, break your neck, he's like, check me out, bitches, and just jumps out of the tree.
Well, I think that's another characteristic that you could be like he's missing, something's not properly functioning in his brain. He's not afraid of things. He has no fear.
No fear. He was constantly thrill-seeking or looking for some kind of adrenaline rush. When he did play outside, which was not that common, he liked riding his bike, but he also enjoyed playing with bows, arrows, and darts.
Oh, yeah, bring back the lawn darts.
His siblings would say that Danny was the only one they could count on. As a child, if he had a cookie, instead of sharing half, he would hand the whole cookie over to his siblings.
Well, that's sweet.
I mean, they say he was like a very sweet, thoughtful, just really nice kid. He wasn't like mean to his siblings, didn't fight with them.
So he wasn't this withdrawn, strange kid who's burning animals out behind the woodshed, stuff like that.
Well, he was a strange, quiet kid, and he did keep to himself quite a bit. There would be like days that they wouldn't see him leave his room, like on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
But then when he would engage with his siblings, I mean, he was like, I want to play, but then wanted to go outside and like, climb up on the roof. And
yeah. What little bit he's outside, he's like jumping off roofs and shit.
pretend he could fly.
Oh, my God.
By age 10, Danny was fully enveloped by his interest in the opposite sex. One day while playing, and they were living in Panama at this time, in South America, he discovered an abandoned house, and inside was a box filled with pornography.
Score.
To Danny, these were like a secret stash of treasures, and from then on, he spent his free time at the house looking through the various magazines. Many of these photos featured semi-nude and nude women depicted in bondage scenes.
Ah, so it's some kind of kinky porn.
Some BDSM. And Danny found these very exciting. At a friend's house, he was playing a hide-and-go-seek type of game when he discovered, hidden under the bed in the adults' room, a book called The Midnight Rapist, which was a story of a man stalking a young woman. The character in the story put on a ski mask, crept into her house, and raped the woman. Danny said this book gave him immense feelings of pleasure but also guilt as he read through it.
Man, who keeps... Wow, I guess that was somebody's little fantasy or something?
I don't know. There was also another book that he found hidden under this bed that was about a woman and a dog.
Wow.
And I won't go into detail, but he said that repulsed him. Danny didn't like the thought of that at all. He said that did nothing for him.
Wow, them parents had some pretty strong kinks going there.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I think the someone breaking in kind of thing's kind of cliche. You know what I mean? Like the lighter version. Maybe not break in and beat the shit out of me and rape me. But
Richard Ramirez me?
yeah, don't do that. But, you know, then I'm just like, I want to stick with like the cable repairman or like the pizza delivery guy.
And you can imagine where it goes from here. He fixes the cable.
Yeah.
Log jamming.
And you're
For
like,
you Big Lebowski fans.
I'm here to run some cable,
Jackie Treehorn
pull
production.
some cord, or special delivery. I can just be the Amazon guy now. I got your package right here.
Can you just be the housekeeper? Can you just like vacuum and stuff? Because that's very sexually exciting for women of a certain age.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so if I just had a little apron on.
No, I'm just thinking if you just clean the house.
Oh, so I don't even need an outfit. I could just start as soon as we get done recording.
Yep.
That's going to turn you on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So Danny didn't just like girls. He was, like I said, fully interested in them. Even talking one girl, and this was when he was about 8 or 9, into doing a sort of striptease for him.
Oh, so kind of I'll show you mine if you show me yours?
No, it was more just like, you show me yours. And
Oh.
she did. On one evening, when his parents had gone out, he made a trip through the jungle to a neighboring girl's house. He climbed a tree outside her room and watched her as she lay in bed reading. He described this as making him feel like he was in a haze. He went back soon after and watched her undress.
Oh, so now he's peeping.
But he felt guilty and shame, like immediately after watching this girl undress. Because it's like deep down he knew it wasn't right.
Well, I mean, it's good to know that he does have those feelings of guilt and such, I guess.
As a teenager, Danny began experiencing bouts of depression. He spent a lot of time in his bedroom reading, usually only coming out for meals, from his room. Later, he would say he blacked out occasionally during his teenage years. His obsessive-compulsive behavior continued. His mother said he seemed to have plenty of girlfriends and normal relationships as a teenager. At 15, he had his heart broken when his girlfriend moved away. So up until this point, like, he's the normal teenage boy. He's, decent looking. A lot of girls interested in him. He's got a girlfriend, kind of long term. She moves away. It breaks his heart. I mean, so it's not like he's being a weirdo with these girls.
No, and discovering porn at your friend's house or whatever, all those are things that happen to kids, back in the day especially.
I've never found a copy of The Midnight Rapist stashed under my friend's parents' bed, but...
Well, coming across that, and one that was obviously sounds like bestiality, that's pretty significant kinks, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think you should secure that type of porn, maybe a little bit more than just a one with boobs and butts, because that's pretty...
I would say that's significantly different than like a Playboy.
Yeah, because if a child does find this, that's a lot to unpack. Both of those, really.
So here's a quick story. I remember being in maybe like the 3rd grade or something and being friends with these 2 girls. And one of them was very like sexually advanced. She knew everything, right? And then the other friend, like the one that was very sexually advanced, her mother was like a babysitter and would keep me sometimes and keep the other girl. That's kind of how we all ended up hanging out together. So I remember one time being over at her house and she had all these like romance novels that were like her mom's romance novels.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like flipping through, like she knew the pages and be like, read this. And it would be some, explicit passage about like Gerard's throbbing loin or whatever, and being like, oh my God, because I was a very sheltered, naive kid, and I was probably 8, 9 when this was happening. But just being like, oh my God, like, didn't really understand what it meant.
Right.
And going home and just being really confused. And then, like, that evening or something, the girl's mother called my mom and was just like, hey, these girls were in my bedroom and they found these romance novels. So I don't know if anything comes of this, but just to let you know or whatever.
Oh, did your mom question you?
Yeah, she did. I mean, she was just like, what were you? And I was like, well, I wasn't trying to read a romance novel, and, blamed it on the other girl, which she knew that little girl was that way. So
she was fast.
So she was just kind of like, okay.
That's what they call it around these
parts. She was just like, well, I know these things can be confusing or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know what a throbbing loin is, but I don't need to know. I'm going to go play with my Barbies now. Thanks.
Yeah, but I mean, it happens. You come across porn, you discover it in a closet, under a bed, things of that nature, which honestly, we'd be better off if we went back to those. Porn was fairly controlled when we were coming up. If you didn't find porn in someone's personal home or something, you weren't going to get it as a kid.
Or you weren't reading The Pirate's Treasure about Gerard and how he broke away Elizabeth's bosom.
And how he's in search of never-ending booty.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, but I'm just saying, these kids nowadays, man, that's what I tell people. It's probably even worse now, but when they hit the middle, if they ride the bus and they ride the middle school bus for a year, their innocence is lost.
They know everything.
It's lost. And these kids nowadays have, like, bent concepts of intimacy and things of that nature, I think. But that's for another story.
This is your non-professional opinion?
That's my non-professional clinical opinion. This is just a man on the street take. Is these kids, just listen to some of the stuff they say. They think blowjobs or oral sex isn't intimate. It's not that big a deal. Right? I mean, that's very intimate, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I wouldn't have sex, but I'll go down on somebody. And you're just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What are you talking about, dude?
Okay, well, this quickly got derailed.
Ha-ha!
All right, I'm just going to stick to my Harlequin romance.
I struck a gun.
So, by 1977, the family had settled in Martinez, and I believe this is in South Carolina or Georgia. It's like right there at the Georgia-South Carolina border. People knew the Starrett family and described them as like typical, normal, all-American types of people. Like, they just seemed happy, loving, didn't seem to be any major red flags, that kind of thing. Danny would call his parents kind, loving, and he would compare them to Ozzie and Harriet. Danny had 2 sisters, a younger sister named Gail and an older sister named Helen, and then he had a younger brother named Robert. And his mother would say that Danny was the only one of her kids who struggled in school, and she just didn't understand it because he was her smartest kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could see her confusion. He's reading all the time. He seems like, he's got all his stuff in order and things. He's quiet. I mean, you'd be like, yeah, this is my statistical probability of having a smart kid. He's the one.
Right. I mean, and it's like a big family. There's 4 kids, mom, dad. They're married. They're not divorced. Not a broken home. Just seems like the very typical all-American family. Danny finally graduated from high school and went to college at Augusta College. Then he went to Georgia Tech. He continued being addicted to adrenaline, seeking thrills any way he could. At one point, he hung his body out of a speeding car, like doing like 70 miles per hour down the highway. And he's just like, hey guys, watch this.
Damn, hold my beer.
Yeah. He took up skydiving, like I said, any extreme sport or activity that would offer him a rush. Danny was also somewhat of a romantic. At least that's what he called himself. As a young man, Danny thought he would find true love, sweep her off her feet and onto his stallion, then gallop away and live happily ever after.
Oh my, he must have read some romance novels.
It was at Augusta College that he had his first full sexual experience with a visiting co-ed from out of state. They got drunk, went to the lake, and had sex. And he never saw her again, which he said made him feel sad.
Oh, he's kind of sweet, in a way. And he didn't put her in a machine and process her,
We haven't
which was
gotten to
nice.
that part yet.
I would say, I don't even know what Danny does or who this guy is. So I'm totally in the dark here.
He's a strange character study. He's like a total contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, I can already see that.
Yeah,
Kinda. Even as a
totally.
child.
It was during this time at Georgia Tech that he began losing control, as he would say. He would find himself following girls that he thought were attractive. He just couldn't help himself. The compulsion became a burning obsession. The pretty girls were just too much for Danny, as he couldn't concentrate on anything but them. So sitting in class, cute girls all around, he can't focus on his schoolwork. He's just like obsessing over all these pretty girls.
Oh, well, that's not good, Danny.
His grades dropped. He would skip classes just to follow a girl around campus.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it is, right? Like stalking them.
I'm telling you, stalking
Like
and
peeping.
peeping, that is not good.
No.
That is there's so much that goes into that, what you're getting out of
Certain
it.
deviance. That's
Yeah.
just,
I mean, it really is, it really is something that can be a sign of some major, major issues.
Danny spent only a year at Georgia Tech, and then he decided to move to California, thinking a change of scenery would help. There he attended San Jose University, but once again found an abundance of attractive co-eds to distract him. He bought a motorcycle while he was in California. After only having the bike for a few months, he had an accident when he slammed into a car after it pulled out in front of him. He sustained a few bumps and bruises, but when he got the insurance money from that accident, he turned around and bought a faster, more powerful motorcycle.
Well, that was a good move, Danny.
During this time, Danny also started buying a lot of true crime and detective magazines, which he says featured a lot of sex and violence, and that gave him a temporary fix.
So this is like the old pulp magazines, kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did horror movies. Throughout his youth, he loved horror movies. The ones depicting acts of rape or violence against women seemed to gratify him in a way he just couldn't put into words.
Again, not good. Man, I can only imagine having these types of feelings inside my head. And I think it would be very disturbing. Even inwardly, I'd be like, something's wrong with me.
Right?
I think so. But I mean, if you develop along, through the years as a child, maybe you don't realize how deviant or bad some of these thoughts and urges you're having are. You know what I mean? You might just think that's how people are.
Maybe. I don't know.
Wow. Damn. Was that deep?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and pause for a moment, Dylan, and hear from our sponsors. While in college, Danny met a woman named Heather. Now, some reports call her Michelle, but the book I read called her Heather. When Danny introduced Heather to his family, his mother just didn't see the relationship lasting because they were complete opposites. But Danny said that is exactly what attracted him to Heather. She was gentle, kind, had a very loving, sweet disposition. Danny said it was exactly what he needed. Heather was the laid-back California beach bunny type. She wasn't very intellectual like Danny. Her family was also Mormon, and Danny's dad had grown up Mormon. And in the beginning, it seemed like Heather's parents expected Danny to convert to Mormonism. Then they tried luring him to California by offering him a summer job, which paid a lot of money. So Danny finally moved permanently to California, where he lived for 4 years. He eventually moved back to Augusta, but he had to promise Heather that she could take lengthy trips twice a year and at Christmas to visit her parents. And when I say lengthy trips, I mean she would go out of town for like 6 to 8 weeks at a time.
Oh, wow.
To visit, yeah. Now, some reports were saying that they met while they were in California, and others were like, no, he went to California, back to Georgia. Heather was at school in Georgia and lured him back to California. So I'm not exactly sure which one is accurate.
But either way, they met and
Right.
started a significant relationship together.
Right. So anyway, I just was going to quick explain that a little bit in case that sounded confusing. When Heather got pregnant, Danny's mother, Jerry, noticed her son's attitude changed. Her son, who had once been affectionate, loving, and doting, was now very withdrawn. And by this point, I should mention they've gotten married. As with most pregnancies, Heather gained about 30 to 40 pounds, and she lost her shapely figure. Heather often complained that Danny had no interest in touching her. When Danny poked fun at her weight gain or teased her, she would get really upset. Yeah, no kidding, Danny. Dick move.
I'm like, dude, teasing any woman, teasing a pregnant woman, it's like cramming your hand down into a dark hole with some kind of beast down in there that's going to chew your nub off.
That's what should happen.
That is what would happen.
On March 12th of 1987, Heather gave birth to a baby girl named Allison. The marriage seemed to go from bad to worse. A few months after the baby was born, Heather confided in her mother-in-law that Danny had lost all interest in sex. Well, normal sex, she called it. After their daughter was born, Danny only wanted oral sex from his wife. She said she could only do it for about 10 minutes before it became painful, and Danny wanted her to do it for at least 40 minutes or so at a time.
Oh, that's a long time, right?
Danny also adamantly refused to allow Heather to have a job. When she would ask about, even working part-time, he would say he wanted his daughter to have a full-time mother at home who kept a tidy house and prepared meals.
Well, both people have to be on board for these types of things he's demanding. If the woman's or the man's okay with being the domestic influence and, keeping the house and one person works, that's fine. But you can't demand that of someone.
Well, Danny would often talk about his future plans to get into politics and that one day he was going to run for Congress and his plan was to give a tax credit to homemakers.
Oh, so that's why I should be okay with you being disinterested in me physically since the baby, making fun of my weight gain, demanding we only have sexual contact of a certain type that I'm not all that into, it doesn't sound like. And I'm sorry, if you need to do it for 40 minutes, you're not doing it right. Am I right? High five. Oh, I'm sorry.
You didn't get a high five.
I didn't get a high five, but you know I'm right.
No comment. Danny had very traditional ideas about marriage and family. And when Heather suggested that maybe they see a counselor, he refused. He was like, nope, I don't need any third-party opinions in my marriage.
Well, it doesn't surprise me that he would refuse.
Trying to reignite the spark in their love life, Danny suggested they make a videotape.
Hey, can I tie you up and suspend you from the ceiling and crank you down to this piece of machinery I got in here somehow?
Well, the video was basically Heather giving him a blowjob.
No.
Yeah. She thought it was boring, but Danny was pretty excited with the whole thing and just kept watching it over and over again.
Just put yourself in her shoes. How lame would that be if you did this thing with him? Because you're trying to get the spark going. And I appreciate she's trying the hardest she can. And then you're just kind of like not even into it and think it's kind of goofy. But then he's like super into it and like keeps watching the video. And then you got yourself on there and you're just like, I don't, what the.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
That doesn't sound fun. Danny said their sex life was pretty vanilla, mostly missionary. But a few times Heather had allowed him to tie her up, which he said was the best sex they'd ever had.
Well, that's just what turns them on.
By Christmas of 1987, Heather took Allison to California to visit her family, leaving Danny alone at home. On New Year's Day, Danny was driving around Columbia, South Carolina. He'd been doing this thing where he would call want ads, or some people call them wanna ads, but like classifieds.
Okay, like hookup classifieds? Or?
No, these are like ads that were listed in a publication called Carolina Trader, and it was people selling items like furniture, appliances, cars.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was like driving around, reading Carolina Trader, reading through these classified ads. And he would often call the homes and talk to the person who was selling the item. And sometimes he would drive to the houses and check out the items for sale. But the women were usually too old, too young, or too ugly. It was just never right, and he always felt bad leaving and then never returning to buy the item.
So basically, he's just fishing this trading magazine or newspaper it doesn't even sound like he knows what he's looking for, but he's looking for something.
Right.
And not the item that they're selling.
No, exactly.
Well, that's very strange to go as far as to go to their house, talk them up on this.
I think it goes again to that whole stalking, peeping, voyeuristic. I've got this secret.
Right.
You're unsuspecting.
Definitely.
It's like giving him these thrills.
That's super creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy. Now, eventually, Danny pulled up at another house and a girl answered the door. Tammy Cranford answered the door, and he went inside to look at an appliance or, whatever she was selling. Then he asked to use the phone. He took the phone off the hook and then forced Tammy to perform oral sex on him.
This dude in oral sex.
Danny will claim that he blacked out during the assault, not even remembering what the girl looked like.
Well, I think that's even worse. I mean, right? If you're totally blacked out and not in control of your body and you're doing all this stuff, then yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, like how
I mean, it's
do
not
you
an
even
excuse.
recall like what you did?
That's not even people put that up like an excuse.
Like
That's not a good
losing
excuse.
Control in a major way. Well, the next time it happened was in June of 1988 when Danny placed 3 calls from the Carolina Trader until he found a girl that sounded right on the phone.
Okay, so he's looking for his victim.
Tiffany Hart allowed him inside the house to see whatever she was selling, and Danny forced her to perform oral sex on him at gunpoint. Then leaves like, doo-doo-doo, nothing ever happened.
Hey, by the way, I don't think that china cabinet's going to work for my kitchen, but thank you.
Yeah.
After you just brutalize this woman?
Yeah, it's so fucked up.
Who can do that? I mean, be in that mindset that you could do this, brutalize this woman in this way at gunpoint, and then just leave like everything's cool.
On the 24th of June, Danny called up another ad from Carolina Trader. This one was for a refrigerator. Susanna Hansen answered the door, and Danny kidnapped her. He took her to his house where he sexually assaulted her and again demanded oral sex.
So I wonder if these women are reporting these things.
Yeah, I believe few
Well,
of them
I'm
are.
sure they are, right? Because these are very bad. This isn't someone just screaming at you or something. But I'm surprised that the word isn't getting on the street, if you will.
Soon after, Danny kidnapped a 12-year-old girl. Now, she was uncertain about letting him into the house, but he eventually got inside. She refused to perform oral sex on him, so he pulled a gun on her, forced her to walk out to his car. In the car, he unzips his pants and put her head in his lap. She wouldn't do anything and just kept crying. And Danny felt like any time he was alone in the car, he was unsafe from his actions.
All right. That I don't know. I don't know what you're doing here.
And then he finally just lets this girl go.
You got this crying girl. You're forcing her head in your lap.
12.
12.
She's a 12-year-old fucking kid.
Oh my God! I was carrying on. And I missed that part.
Yeah, she's 12.
Jesus.
So she's just crying and like refusing. And so eventually he just has to be like, okay, and let her go. Because she's just not cooperating. Even with the gun.
Jesus, because she don't even know what to do. She's
a
fucking
little
12.
Kid. I know. By Christmas of 1988, Danny thought his wife Heather would stay home so their daughter Allison could celebrate with his family. However, his wife had other plans, choosing to travel to California to visit her parents. And she was going to be gone for, like 6 weeks or something. Danny felt enraged and hurt that Heather didn't want to be with him on Christmas. He dropped her off at the airport. Then he thought he would surprise her by showing up in California. So he bought a $900 plane ticket.
So he's just going to shoot. She's probably you treat her like shit. I mean, really. So why should you be surprised if she wants to rather go stay with her family for weeks on end?
In California versus like South Carolina or Georgia? Yeah, I don't blame her.
Well, I guess it depends on what part of California.
He found another ad for bedroom furniture in Carolina Trader. A girl named Jean Taylor McCree set up a meeting at her parents' house for Danny to see the furniture. When her parents arrived home, they found a note that said she'd left and she would be back in a few days. Jeannie went willingly with Danny to his house in Martinez, where she would stay with him for 2 months.
Oh, so she's just hanging out with him.
She's just hanging out. Now, of course, this is according to Danny, but his story does seem to check out. Danny put some sunglasses on her with tape covering them so she couldn't see where they were going. Jeannie had almost been flirting with him, and when he pulled the gun on her, she told him she needed to pack a few things before they left. Like, she just didn't seem surprised or scared.
Jeannie. Maybe that's her kink.
Having
a gun pulled on her.
When they got to Danny's house, he put her in a closet in their third bedroom, padlocking a chain to her leg through a hole in the floor.
Well, at this point, she's got to be like, this is not okay, right?
Well, you would think. Now, eventually, he let her out of the closet. He gave her a snack and told her that when he got ransom money, he would give her some. And she seemed okay with that, saying she wanted to buy some new clothes for a school trip that she was taking to New York City. She was a high school senior. She attended Irmo High School in South Carolina, which is right outside of Columbia. in case you're kind of wondering where she's from. She suggested that Danny rent a movie. I mean, the pair were acting like they were spending a normal weekend at home, though she was wearing chains.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not going to make fun of her anymore because I don't know what's going through her head. I don't know if any types of issues she may have before she met Danny, but it seems very strange.
Well, she agreed to have sex with Danny, but started crying when he turned on the video camera. As soon as he turned it off, she was more than willing to have sex with him, and she was even offering him blowjobs. They spent more days together. Eventually, he stopped chaining her up, and she told him that she wasn't going to leave. For Christmas, he bought her gifts. He bought her a dress and some earrings. He suggested that she call her parents to wish them a Merry Christmas, but she said she didn't want to upset them. Jeannie was getting bored being in the house and suggested they spend New Year's Eve someplace. Like, we should go out.
I've been chained up here in the house for weeks now.
Danny made reservations on Jekyll Island in Georgia. He took her shopping, they ate out in restaurants, and she never once tried leaving while they were out of town.
Okay.
They're just living it up like they're having a date weekend. I mean, and this is 2 months into,
Yeah, and so his wife's in California this whole time with the kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
With their daughter.
With their daughter.
When they returned back to Martinez, Danny shot Jeannie in his shower.
So this whole time, he's just like having fun with this girl, but it's almost like he enjoys forcing women to do things. So it's almost like this is kind of throwing him off, seems like. Like she's just like, yeah, I'll do this, but I want to do it this way. But then he's planning on killing her the entire time, sounds like.
Well, he claims that he didn't mean to kill her and that he really, almost didn't even realize what he had done. Like he was having some sort of out-of-body experience or something.
Yeah.
Well, after some time, he loads her body up in his car and he drives her to South Carolina where he dumped her body by the side of the road. Then he remembered how much she liked water, so he put her back in the car, drove down a dirt road until he found a stream. Then he dragged her body over by the water, got in his car, and drove away.
All right.
Which, to me, that sounds like some extreme narcissism on his part, because that was to make himself feel better.
Yeah.
Like, well, I remembered she liked water, so I'm going to put her there because that, made him feel better about the
Yeah,
situation.
dude, you just murdered this girl.
Yeah.
You just killed her.
When Heather came back from her parents' house, the relationship grew even more miserable. Danny was distant, withdrawn. Heather complained to Jerry, her mother-in-law, that she felt she didn't even know Danny anymore. He lay around the house complaining of headaches constantly. He was missing work often, coming home because he had blacked out. He went to a doctor for a brain scan, but refused to do any further testing, saying that it could potentially damage his political aspirations.
Dude, you don't have any political aspirations. And he's took everything to the next level now that he's killed her. I mean, all this stuff he's doing is bad. But I think in his mind, he's stepped it up a notch by, going all the way.
And he was drinking, and from what I understand, he wasn't much of a drinker, but after Heather returned, he was just drinking, all day, all night, getting drunk constantly.
Right.
He stayed out late at night and told Heather it was none of her business when she would ask, where have you been? And then again, like I mentioned, he started drinking more by himself. One night, he took Heather to dinner and he told her, I think I'm going crazy. And this scared her. She asked if he was seeing someone else, and he said no. But then he suggested that she take their daughter and go back to California for a while. He claimed he needed to get his head together and to be alone.
And he just wants to go out and do more messed up stuff, I'm going to guess.
February 6th of 1989, 15-year-old Chrissy Blake was at her home near Lexington, South Carolina, waiting to meet a man about a waterbed. The appointment set up through Carolina Trader. When the man, claiming to be an insurance salesman, shows up, the girl is initially, a little afraid to let him in the house. Once Danny gets inside the house, he asks, can I use your bathroom? And as she's showing him where it is, he pulls a gun on Chrissy. He makes her get into his car and ride to his home in Martinez. Once inside the house, he chains her ankles together, putting her in the closet in that third bedroom. And he would keep Chrissy for several days, sexually assaulting her multiple times, including making videotapes of her performing oral sex.
How can you? I just don't understand how you can do this. I guess that's why I'm not a killer or a stalker or any of that. I just don't get it.
No. While being held by Danny, the two watched TV together and played card games. After a day or so in his custody, she had contracted some type of stomach flu and was growing, increasingly sicker. And I guess she explained that her mother had just had this stomach flu and that she thought she had it now. Danny offered her Alka-Seltzer. I mean, he's like trying to take care of her while she's sick.
That's weird.
Then one night, Danny, reportedly drunk, fell asleep on the couch, and he didn't lock Chrissy's chains, and she managed to escape by running to his neighbor's home and calling for help.
Well, that should be the end of Danny, right?
And they also believe, and I couldn't find a whole lot of information about this, but that he kidnapped and raped another 17-year-old girl named Sherry Dawn Teets that was from South Carolina as well.
Really?
So we've got multiple rapes. They all seem to be through this publication that he's meeting these victims.
Yeah.
Officers entered Danny Starrett's home, walking from room to room. In one of the bedrooms, they found a mattress on the floor and a camcorder set up on a tripod. An officer played the tape in the camcorder only to see a video of the young girl being assaulted just as she had described.
Well, there's your evidence.
The FBI issued a nationwide alert on Richard Daniel Starrett as he was wanted for kidnapping and sexual criminal conduct. He was considered armed and dangerous. It was on February 14th of 1989 that a Texas state trooper pulled into a rest area off of US 10, which was about 30 miles east of Houston. It was about 11 p.m., and there was only one car sitting in this parking lot. It was a red Chevy Camaro. Out of habit, the trooper ran the plates on the car, thinking perhaps it was a stolen vehicle. When the car came back to a registered, registered to this wanted man, Richard Daniel Starrett. Danny was arrested and booked into the Harris County Jail in Texas. Now, before officers could even read him his rights, he was volunteering information. He just can't wait to talk about it. Explaining the charges that he was being held for kidnapping and assaulting a young woman in Georgia, Danny immediately began denying this, stating, "That can't be true. I'm married. I have a baby. I would never do that."
Yeah, ask my wife.
Ask my wife. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I hope this is not coming across the audio. Apparently all our neighbors are starting up rocket engines and yeah, what the fuck?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
The weekend, Dylan.
Oh, weekend in Haywood County.
He admitted to kidnapping and assaulting 3 girls and killing 1. He also admitted to assaulting 4 others in Georgia and South Carolina. So he's basically like, hey, I'm, probably have assaulted 9 or 10 girls at this point.
Well, that's his narcissism. But you were right about him being full of contradictions. Like caring where he put her body, even if that is to make himself feel better, put her near the water because she likes the water.
Well, he's kidnapping these girls, holding them hostage, but then, trying to take care of them, give them medication. Oh,
yeah.
You want to rent a Blockbuster movie? I'll go get you one.
Yeah,
what do you
sure.
want to see?
Right.
I'll take you out of town.
Yeah, so
I'm buying you gifts.
It's
so weird.
It is weird.
Because in his mind, it's like he really doesn't feel like what he's doing is wrong because he's a nice guy.
Yeah, I know we met in kind of a weird way. I just wanted to buy your waterbed on Carolina Trader. Not really, because I already got a waterbed that you're chained under now. But I really feel like we're making a connection. Now they're going to start that dumb shit next door.
Oh, where they rev up the engine?
Yo, I'm going to get my boots out.
Man, that really turns me on when he revs up his truck engine like that.
Climb up in
400 times in an hour.
Climb up in your truck.
Okay, so police search Starrett's storage unit. They end up finding a receipt for this rented storage unit while they were searching his house. And it's only about a mile away. They find 935 pornographic books and magazines depicting hardcore sexual bondage, horror scenes, and nudity. There were also books on criminology, how to create a new identity, and how to investigate missing children crimes. And he had books on Ted Bundy.
Oh.
There were about 100 videotapes in storage, with some depicting Danny's sexual assaults.
Wow. So he had a thing for porn, some kind of extreme porn. And the horror scenes, was that just like horror movie scenes?
Well, it sounds like some of these magazines were like
was that
pornographic,
that
but
horror
also
porn?
like horror porn.
Ugh. I didn't know there was such a thing.
You didn't?
No.
You're very naive.
Oh, but hey, no offense. If that's your thing, keep flipping the pages. Just don't kidnap and kill people.
I'm glad that you're a man who's just like easily satisfied with like a Budweiser and a pack of smokes and just some good old fashioned boobs.
Well, hey, just a little bit of cuddling, some boobs in my face.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that about you.
Certainly doesn't take 40 minutes.
Danny Starrett was baffling to police. He was a man who worked at the Savannah River nuclear power plant with a wife and child, described by people as a normal, quiet guy. He had managed to keep his two lives separate. When news broke of Danny's crimes and arrest, his whole family was shocked, especially his mother and sister. With headlines painting him as the new Ted Bundy, his family just couldn't understand what was happening because this sounded nothing like the Danny they knew.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, sometimes these guys, or a lot of times these guys are good at keeping their lives separate.
Now, he's eventually sent back to his home state from Texas. And his mother, Jerry, immediately goes on the, I guess would be the offensive.
In defense of her son?
Yeah. She's on the offense here.
Well,
she's giving TV interviews on how she's a victim in all of this, how his family, they're the real victims in all of this.
Oh.
She talks repeatedly about her family suffering and how her poor son Danny is being treated. And the more that Jerry pushes back, the more she begins to lose business, lose friends. Eventually, a salon that she owns that's quite successful goes under. Because people are just like, no.
Well, I'll tell you, anywhere around any small towns or something, you might be able to get away with that in a city of millions, but word spreads quickly.
Well, I don't think that's going to be well received anywhere.
Well, that's true.
Where you just don't recognize the victims at all, and you're just talking about how it makes you feel and your poor son. I don't think anyone is going to be okay with that.
I understand if he, they see him in this light, and then it turns out he was doing these horrible things. I understand at first no, that can't be. Not my son or daughter or whatever. But, I mean, you got to look at the evidence. And if they present you with, look, we found the storage locker, there's this stuff, there's, boom, boom, boom. All these witness statements. This girl escaped from his house.
Your son is openly telling investigators everything.
Your son's told us way more than we ever knew. And all these different things. I mean, maybe that's where the narcissism comes from. Maybe she's narcissistic.
Well, I think so. And honestly, just reading through this book, which I'll, tell you the book at the end of the story or whatever. His mother, oh my God, she got on my nerves so bad. Like, I just do not care for this woman. Well, Danny's defense team wants to paint him as mentally ill. A doctor diagnoses him as a narcissistic sexual sadist, which Danny finds very offensive. Danny doesn't view himself as a narcissist or a sexual sadist. He refuses to cooperate with the psychologist, goes on a hunger strike, and doesn't make it easy for his defense team.
All right.
He starts creating all these self-serving theories about himself, about how it all went wrong. Well, Danny is found sane and competent to stand trial. His IQ is about 124. He is diagnosed with an atypical paraphilia, but his defense team expert states that doesn't render him incapable of self-control.
Atypical paraphilia?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard that term.
Well, I mean, it basically is just like you got this fetish or this thing that really arouses you, but that doesn't mean you can't control it.
Oh, okay.
Which by definition in South Carolina and Georgia, it like doesn't meet the definition for insanity. Right.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
One of these theories that Danny creates about himself involves pornography. Now, according to Danny, pornography is to blame for just everything that has happened, for his condition, the way he is. Danny says pornography is what got him into this mess, that these sexually explicit images and horror movies were a gateway to rape and murder.
Yeah, that's deflecting.
And he vows that he is going to fight against these things.
Oh, thank God you're on board, Danny.
Yeah, after you've raped and murdered a woman.
Yeah, you did all this stuff. You can't blame. You used that porn for a crutch to lean on to,
Satisfy these urges.
satisfy your urges for a very long time. So whatever, dude. I hate people that do this.
I know.
I mean, it's almost, you got the other end of the spectrum is the super cocky, yeah, I did it, so what? Arrogant asshole murder guy. But then you got on the other, you got these people always looking for some excuse why I did that. Oh, it was the blackouts. Well, if you keep blacking out and coming to in these very fucked up situations, you need to seek help. You need to be like, look, I think I did something crazy while I was blacked out. I need help. I need to, be responsible for what I've done. But yeah, it's just excuses.
Well, against the advice of his attorneys, Danny is writing letters from jail to victims and their families.
Yeah, that's probably good advice, right?
He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, that he's smarter than his lawyers, he's smarter than psychiatrists. I mean, he just can't get enough of himself. He will even say to the psychiatrist, I know you're not accustomed to speaking with someone who has my level of intelligence.
Oh, wow.
In this jail.
So he was
but you can't come in here with your degree and treat me this way because I'm smart.
Oh, so he was a live action well actually guy.
Yeah.
He's atting people in their face.
So, yeah.
Wow.
While awaiting trial, Danny kept detailed journals in which he discussed his support for Republican politicians like Ronald Reagan and George Bush because they were tough on crime. He wrote about his support for the death penalty, and if 100 people were executed and one person was innocent, it was worth it to take out the bad guys.
Oh.
He was so narcissistic that he didn't even put himself in the same category as other rapists and murderers.
Well, of course not.
Though he suffers from this, doctors say. I mean, there's no reason he can't control his impulses. That he just really liked raping young women, and that's all there is to it.
Well, that's it. That's the bottom line. He has, a lot of us have urges. Who hasn't had an urge in their life, no matter what it is, that you didn't act on? Right? I mean,
I have an urge almost every time I go out in public that I just want to slap the shit out of somebody, and I don't do it. I refrain.
Well, there you go.
Right?
That is a daily urge.
Yeah.
That a person can have, or, it doesn't matter if the urge is small or big. I think it takes maybe I can't equate that.
No,
like that.
I'm in the grocery store. Two people are blocking the aisle having a fucking conversation. Like they can't catch up on Facebook or just call each other later. And they're going through like the last 10 years of what's happened in their life since they last saw each other.
I think that people who...
And then I'm just wanting to scream and yell at them and be like, get the fuck out of my way! But I don't.
Well, I'm pretty sure our listeners that have been listening to Mountain Murders know that this is a particular thing that bugs you. And, I don't even care if you have the conversation in the aisle. You know that there's other people here, right? You can be like, oh, excuse me, because I've stopped and actually when I stop...
Yeah, but these people will, purposefully
That's what I
block
know.
the aisle.
Yeah.
With their carts.
And talk all loud
and their
and shit.
Bodies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'll have, a bunch of kids running around, tearing all the shit off the shelves and stuff.
Oh, my God.
And I just want to reach and get, that one can of black beans, but I can't because you blocking the shelf.
When you look over at me and I'm literally just standing there looking at you in a grocery store or Walmart, whatever, you've got to know that I'm trying to get to where you're at, right? There's no other reason for me to be here now.
Dude, I can even be like, excuse me, and try to get them to move and they won't budge and they won't even acknowledge that I'm there.
Oh,
I'm
no.
What the fuck?
That's
man?
not going to work.
So
It's just because you're little.
Control my impulses all the time.
Well, I'm just saying.
I could be hitting somebody with some black beans. Okay.
That's bullshit.
All right.
That's bullshit on his part, and it's just excuses. And, and I don't even think him admitting to the other things he'd done was just about self-inflating his own ego. And he's not accepting responsibility for what he's done.
Well, his wife Heather files for divorce while he's being held in jail awaiting trial. And Jerry, his mother, is outraged, describing this as a betrayal and asking, how is Danny supposed to get through this? I mean, he kidnaps, rapes, and murdered a 15-year-old girl. So what the fuck is wrong with his mother?
I don't know.
What wife is going to stand by her husband when you find out he's a serial rapist and a murderer?
And he was treating her like shit anyway, so she probably wanted a divorce even before all this came out. What is wrong with his mom?
I don't know, but she is something else. Well, let me just say. Richard Daniel Starrett is given 4 life sentences for raping women and for the murder of Jean Taylor McCree. Though he was only charged with the 1 murder, investigators suspect he may have killed more women than just Jean.
Well, yeah, I believe that, possibly.
In 2006, Danny tried to escape prison, but was caught within 100 feet of the perimeter of the prison.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it when they catch him. Well, a guy like this.
A resource that I used for this case, of course, there's a lot of like newspaper articles and that kind of thing. But if you're interested in reading the book, it's called A Stranger in the Family, and it is a very one-sided book that I guess it wants me to like empathize.
Empathize?
Empathize.
Won't you just feel bad for Danny?
Well, it wants me to like empathize with his insane mother, and I just can't do it. I mean, I feel like she's part of the problem. So in that way, the book kind of bothers me because I'm just like, can't we just get to the facts here? Do I need to hear this woman's rantings about all the ways in which her son is perfect and been screwed over?
Well, I mean, when you feel empathy for someone, I think it has to come natural. It can't be forced down. You know what I mean? Like our last story with Kyle. Poor Kyle.
Or the Clara Schwartz case?
Yes.
Okay.
And in that book, you feel a connection with him. You're just like, shit. He was disturbed. He had his own mental issues. And then Clara, the total wrong person for him to meet, manipulates him into this situation. And you feel bad for him. Even now, he knows what he did was wrong all these years later. And you feel true empathy. I did. I think you did as well.
I did.
And I think maybe people who listen to our story on him could empathize with him. But you can't make it happen. If someone's just her keeping on, I'm sorry you can't deal with what your son did. I feel bad for you. I feel bad for the family. But, I mean, get over it. There's people, a girl was killed.
What about her family?
Many other girls were brutalized by this man.
Their lives forever changed. I mean, this man came into their home and assaulted them. They will never feel safe at home again.
No.
They will spend the rest of their lives, like, looking over their shoulders and having nightmares and experiencing, like, PTSD from this.
Yeah, and even
worse, who knows?
And even if you can't deal with it, what your son's done, which I understand that as well, shut the fuck up. Quit giving interviews, quit writing letters, and quit carrying on and on about how great your son was and how this can't be. Man, I'm sorry.
Or how it's just so hard for your family.
Yeah, poor you.
I mean, she lost her business, and I think if maybe she had just refrained from giving interviews and sharing her opinions on it, it may not have negatively affected her business.
It's going to affect you a little bit. There's going to be some people like, oh, I'm not, I don't want to go anywhere near those people.
But when you're
unfairly,
trying to beg money from all of your friends for your son's defense lawyers and...
Well, no.
Yeah, like, oh, we all have to stick together. You're with me, right?
No.
Your employees are like, I don't think so.
No, your son sounds like he has some real problems and he hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
And murdered somebody. So, no.
Well, I know that this was a little departure maybe from our normal true crime story. I mean, we only had the one murder, but he was mostly the serial rapist.
Well, still.
But it's a fucking crazy story, right? And I'm just so fascinated with like this, Jekyll and Hyde personality that he has.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think he didn't know exactly what he was wanting to do, it seemed like, in some of these situations. And I think he could have been way worse if he was maybe more organized and more focused on what he actually wanted.
Well, if he hadn't
more like a Dennis Rader.
Well, if he hadn't been caught as quickly as he was.
That's true.
I think he would have gone on to be like a BT gay.
Well, I mean, he has he likes to stalk, he likes to peep, he's into the bondage. He doesn't mind, taking someone and coming into their home. I mean, fuck. Holy shit.
And a lot of times when he would abduct these women, he had rented a car.
Yeah, there you go.
He would rent a car and drive around town calling up Carolina trader ads.
That's so weird.
It is.
Well, that just goes to show you, even, to this day, you got to be careful. If you are going to, call someone. You put someone on Craigslist. Always have someone there with you. Never do
Facebook
it.
yard sales.
Never meet
Yeah.
anyone alone, man. Because I mean, it's still these monsters are out there. They're never going to go away in society. A certain percentage of people are just monsters.
It's true, Dylan.
Are they truly evil? Is it the devil's work? I think they're just fucked.
Well, if you would like to comment on today's story, or you have a case for us that you would like to suggest, or you have a great listener tale, or you just want to tell us, hi guys, email mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. All you have to do is look for Mountain Murders.
I'm going to try to do some more TikTok videos.
You're going to make some TikToks?
Maybe. I don't know. I think I got to work out a new character.
You need a new character.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying I'm garbage.
Well, I didn't say that exactly.
No, that's basically what you said.
Not to your face.
Well, yeah. Oh, is that what you're saying behind my back?
That's what I'm saying on my personal TikTok.
You know what? People get all tore up about what people say behind their back. You say it behind my back, I don't give a fuck.
I don't want to know what you say about me behind my back.
I didn't hear it. And B, you ain't got the balls to say it to my face.
Well, when people are like, I heard that so-and-so was talking about me or what, I don't understand. Like, I don't get upset about it. And when people are like, well, do you want to know what they said? Most of the time I'm like, don't even tell me. I don't want to know.
No.
I don't need to know what people say about me.
Don't care.
Yeah, I don't. It's just giving me unnecessary anger for no reason, because at the end of the day, I don't really give a fuck what they say.
That's the point. I don't care what they fucking say.
So there's that.
Because those people are nothing to me.
Yeah, right.
All right.
But if you have something positive that you want to say, or you do want to just tell us you guys are shit or whatever, you can email us.
You say it to our face.
That's it. Yeah.
You say it in Heather's face.
Say it to my virtual face.
Yeah, you just type out those letters and you press send, and we're going to love you for it.
Okay. Well, Dylan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And discussing Richard Daniel Starrett.
Yeah, Richard was a horrible guy. And thank you for telling me the story. I did not know about him.
All right. Well, we hope you guys have a fantastic week. And we will be back on Wednesday with an offbeat
Bye.
just for you guys.
Love you.